Hello, everyone. This is a request. Is that I want to say Iben, but I'm sure that's incorrect. Battuta. Did I butcher that? Was that terrible? There's a few of you out there who are encouraging me to say the names, because you know I'll look like a fool. So I hope you're happy. All right, this is I saw part 2. So I'm going to do this one and then I'll do the other one. And if there's a part 3, I'll do 3. I'll do 4, 5, 7, 30, or whatever's available.
June 23rd, 1325, Tangier. A 21-year-old scholar, mounted on a donkey, leaves home for the first time. His objective, the holy city of Mecca. He expects to be gone for 2 years, possibly even 3. I set out alone, he wrote later, having neither fellow traveler in whose companionship I might find cheer, nor caravan whose part I might join, but swayed by an overmastering impulse within me, and a desire long cherished in my bosom to visit these illustrious sanctuaries. So I braced my resolution to quit my dear ones, female and male, and forsook my home as birds forsake their nests. And he will not return home for another 24 years.
So he thought he would be gone for 2 to 3 years. When you put both of those numbers together, he was still gone longer. That's ridiculous. There are some times when I'm like, I'll be back in an hour, and 3 hours goes by and then I come back. No one cares. Back then, you said you were going to be gone 2 or 3 years. That's probably... That was they were like, oh, it'll be a quick trip.
When Ibn Battuta left Tangier, he had no idea that he was commencing on a journey so epic, we'd still be talking about it 700 years later. And in his quarter century of wandering, he would end up seeing nearly the entire Muslim world of the 14th century, from the deserts of the Empire of Mali to the Islamic outposts of Indonesia and southern China. In doing so, he would travel around 75,000 miles, enough to circle the globe 3 times, meet 60 heads of state, and visit 40 modern countries. He would survive kidnapping and shipwreck, witness revolts and military campaigns, be imprisoned by a mad sultan, and encounter the horrors of the Black Plague. And when he finally returned, the ruler of Morocco asked him to spend 2 years dictating all he saw to a literary scholar. The resulting book, a gift to those who contemplate the wonders of cities and the marvels of traveling, a title often shortened to The Travels, is 1,000 pages long. Which is sort of a problem if, for example, you're adapting it into a series of 5 short animated videos. But in truth, even if we had 10 times the budget and development time for this series, we still wouldn't be able to do all of Ibn Battuta's travels justice. But what we can do, though, is look at the travels the way historians do today, as a way of understanding the breadth of Islamic religion and culture during the 14th century, how faith was adapted to local conditions, and the trade and travel links that could take a man from North Africa to China. And of course, we'll look at the curious, intrepid, ambitious, and often quite prickly man who experienced it all. Apart from what we learn from the travels, we actually know surprisingly little about Ibn Battuta himself. But we can be sure his formative years in Morocco were the perfect training for a great traveler. Tangier was not one of North Africa's great cities, but it was a massive trade hub. To the north lay Europe. To the south, the golden kingdoms of sub-Saharan Africa. To the east lay the Mediterranean trade networks, and to the west, the burgeoning Atlantic trade. And its docks thronged with both Muslims and Christians, along with merchants from Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Ibn Battuta's family were scholars of Islamic law, and gave their son an education that would let him follow in the family tradition. This education made him a qadi, a magistrate or judge of Islamic law. Not only an honorable profession, but one, it turned out, that would let him find work wherever there was a Muslim community. His education also likely instilled the curiosity that would drive him on his great journey. For in Islam, curiosity and the seeking of knowledge is considered a religious duty. In fact, a common saying at the time, seek knowledge even unto China, would really end up becoming quite literal for this young man. But Ibn Battuta's travel experience began by embarking on the Hajj, or annual pilgrimage to Mecca, a religious duty for all Muslim men if they had the resources, were healthy enough to do it, and their leaving wouldn't place a burden on their family. He set out alone at first, traveling east across North Africa, but soon joined up with a pilgrim caravan for protection against bandits. And they were happy to have him, as having a Qadi among a caravan meant that disputes and matters of religious law could be solved without stopping the train. So they crossed the land of the slave sultans, the Mamluks, who had risen from being enslaved soldiers to taking over the state. And though he was not far from home, Ibn Battuta began to reveal what he would be like as a traveler. A fever hit him hard, the first of many on his journey. Soon, he was so ill he could barely stay on his mount. "If God decrees my death," he said, "then my death shall be on the road, with my face set toward Mecca." Determined not to stop, he tied himself to his saddle in order to keep going. But stop he did. And during that brief sojourn, he did a very Ibn Battuta thing. While recovering, he fell in love and formed a marriage contract, but then dissolved it before the ceremony after a dispute with the woman's father. But then shortly afterward, he would meet and marry another woman, the first of 10. Oh yeah, that's right, he would marry 10 women on his journey. Now, we don't know much about these marriages. He simply mentions them in passing, confirming the Islamic literary convention of keeping his private life private. And often, like with his first wife, he would divorce his wives when he moved on, a common practice in medieval Islam, and perhaps these divorces may even have been mutually agreed, since religious law made that the easiest route to ending a marriage. But here is where we get the first hint of Ibn Battuta's lifelong fascination with women. Wherever he went, along with descriptions of food, agriculture, religious life, and court processions, he often remarked on how attractive he found the local ladies. He was also known to have innumerable lovers and concubines over his life, including several that were enslaved. And it's also at this point we get an early indicator of his, well, let's just call it snippy nature. On a stop in Egypt, he visited the town bathhouse and was shocked to find the men inside were not wearing the hip coverings required by law. Basically, they were naked in the locker room. But now here's the thing about Ibn Battuta. He could get a bit judgy. And if he saw you doing something he considered wrong, oh, he was definitely telling the teacher. In fact, historians often refer to him as a busybody, for being all up in your business. But to put it in a more modern vernacular, Ibn Battuta was a total narc. So instead of just telling those guys to please cover up, he went straight to the local governor and started an official crackdown on proper dress in the bathhouses. Yeah, the phrase, "that escalated quickly," was kind of his brand. But while he often comes off as...
I don't know anything about this guy. This is the first time I've ever heard about him. 75,000 miles he traveled. That's crazy. 10 wives.
While he often comes off as judgmental, his job was to be a judge. And this trip across North Africa offered him the opportunity to develop those skills. Because while he was fully qualified as a Qadi, the universities of Tangier were provincial when compared to those in Cairo, Damascus, and Alexandria. So as he made his way toward Mecca, he would stop to study for a few months under great teachers, gaining further certifications. He saw the great lighthouse of Alexandria, visited Cairo, which he called the Mother of Cities, passed by the Giza pyramids, and traveled down the Nile, but then was halted by a violent revolt. So he doubled back to Cairo and instead took the royal road to Damascus. Diverting for a moment to visit the tomb of Abraham, then the Muslim sites in Jerusalem, he finally made it to the Mamluks' second capital. But eager to move on, he only spent 24 days in Damascus, probably living in the dormitory of the Great Mosque. Though he did pack that 3 weeks full, managing to survive another illness, gaining further certifications, and celebrating Ramadan. Oh, and of course, he got married and divorced again. That's right, Zoe, because Ibn Battuta. And there he finally joined the official route of the Hajj, across a perilous desert route, haunted by epidemic disease, burning days, and freezing nights. And this time, Mamluk soldiers guarded them from bandits. Yet the caravan made it to its destination without incident, the city of Medina, where the Prophet Muhammad had retreated with his followers when driven out of Mecca. While there, he prayed at the Mosque of the Prophet, built over Muhammad's tomb, before continuing on. Then finally, upon reaching the holy city of Mecca, he took part in the rituals of the Hajj, making several circles around the Kaaba, bowing to the shrine of Abraham's footprints, standing on the plains before the Mount of Mercy, where the Prophet gave his farewell sermon, reciting prayers, and listening to religious teachings for a full day. And of course, he studied, seeking always more knowledge. for this pilgrimage had merely whetted his appetite for seeing the world. Not to mention, he had come across news that the Sultan of Delhi, immensely rich and generous, was in need of officials with proper certifications, which is why he was building his resume. Fame, fortune, and adventure awaited in the East, and he decided to extend this 18-month trip a little bit longer. So Ibn Battuta turned his mount towards the lands of Muslim Persia and the devastated city of Baghdad. Special thanks to...
Sorry, I hit the cord and my microphone dropped. That was why I made that face. Well, that was pretty good. $7:30. Maybe I'll do one more. Just one. I've done 5 tonight. So I do 11 every week. Knock out. Get 1 extra. My dogs are running around eating and going to fight. Alright. Well, I'm going to end this here. I might just go ahead and do part 2. This was a little short, I understand, but I don't want to combine these. Combine? I probably should. But I'm a bit lazy. No, I think I'm done for the night. None of this matters to you. You don't care. So, like and subscribe, and have a good day. Have a good night.